All right, welcome back, guys. Today in this video, I want to talk about something that I have been thinking about for quite a few years now. And just this last summer, it kind of got solidified in my brain as something that I think I can actually implement into my fishing year over year. And that is the concept of throwing a hard jerkbait all year long. So it's fall time right now. You're probably starting to think about throwing a jerkbait. If you're up north, you're definitely already throwing a jerkbait. It's already cooling off. If you're down south, like me in Florida, you're starting to get some of the signs that it might cool off soon. It's still really hot, but you're getting a lot of storms with cool breezes coming in. The nights are a little bit less humid. But either way, you start kind of transitioning your brain into, all right, I can throw a jerkbait now. But I've always wondered, why is it just in the fall and the winter when jerkbaits are something that is talked about a lot? Because I've personally always had, a lot of success with a jerkbait on super hot summer days where it seems like I can't get them on anything else. I feel like I can still get them on a jerkbait, but it always felt like something that no one else really did. And I thought to myself, it's probably just a fluke, a one-off. You can catch anything on anything any time of the year, but is it really something that you would recommend, or is like a pattern to someone? Until this year, this summer, I went out fishing a few weeks ago at this point, and it was a blazing late August summer day in Florida. I'm talking 96 degrees, I think. Probably the feel was close to 100 or over 100 degrees. And it is noon. I mean, just absolutely miserable. And I'm thinking about calling it, just kind of wrapping it up. But I put on a bait that I have had tremendous success with throughout my fishing, the Megabass Vision 110 Plus One Junior. I just threw this on. I was actually on a phone call with my mom, just kind of messing around, and I hooked into my personal best largemouth ever. It was a 7-pound bass, and it was on this jerkbait. And I sat there looking at this fish, and I was so just confused because this made no sense to me. Why is this fish eating a jerkbait in 96-degree weather in Florida? I mean, this is supposed to be the opposite of the bite that was going on. But it kind of clicked to me then, where I go, you know what? I actually do catch a lot of fish in the summer on this. And then obviously in the winter, everyone throws this thing in the winter, everyone throws it in the fall. And the spring, you can kind of throw anything in the spring. So what I want to talk about today is the concept of fishing a hard jerkbait all year long. And I think I can actually confidently suggest this to you guys as a technique, because I've had so much success over the years. It doesn't seem to be a one season fluke, or just like, oh, that happened that one year, but now it doesn't anymore. It seems to be something that is sticking with me consistently. And I've yet to figure out if is it just the way that I'm working it? Is it the baits? Or is it just the concept of a jerk bait is just versatile all year long? I'm not sure, but I'll share some thoughts. So I wanted to talk about a few baits that you can kind of keep in mind as you're fishing all year long, because obviously not all the baits are going to work all year long, or at least they're not going to be the best option for that time. So let's start with the obvious: fall time, and then transitioning into winter time. So you're going cooler water into really cold water. So as the water cools down, you can look at something kind of like this. This is a Vision 95. It's actually a really interesting bait that I've been experimenting with. The reason I pull this one out is because it's a shorter size. So in the fall, they're going to be keying in, for the most part, on smaller bait fish. And this particular lure has a really enticing, like, side-to-side wobble as it stabilizes. So you'll twitch it like this, and then instead of just staying here, like most jerk baits just go like that, this thing will twitch, and then it'll do this. It'll twitch, and then it'll go like that. It's really interesting, and they get that done because there is a rod of weight down the bottom, no weight transfer system. So that rod just tilts back and forth as it comes to a stop. Super interesting. And I think as these fish start to get a little bit more aggressive and keyed in on smaller bait, this is going to be really interesting, really close to the surface. But that's the key part, really close to the surface. So as that water really cools down, I'm not going to be using this. I'm going to be diving into my personal favorites, which are the Plus One series, the junior and the standard size. This is actually the baits that I would recommend. Just if you're only going to buy one, if you don't want to spend a bunch of money on these, just get the junior Plus One and you're done, to be honest with you. But I'm going to focus on these two. So as the water gets a little bit cooler and the fish go a little bit deeper, I'm definitely keying in on the junior +1. And if I think there's a bigger fish in the mix, I may even start throwing the standard +1. But I will say it seems like this guy gets more consistent bites, and I'm yet to see when this outperforms the junior. I'm thinking maybe in the springtime, but that'll have to be tested out as the springtime comes. But these are two tremendous baits that I would use all year long, but especially as the water starts to get a little bit cooler, especially in the really cold water. These are the ones I'm going to use. They suspend extremely well. Their action is very predictable. It is very easy to get correct, and it is very hard to mess up the action, which is why I love these so much. And then the last bait I want to talk about, just kind of a little bit of a wild card, this is the Megabass 110 Plus 2. Now, the reason I bring this in is not because I use this one a whole lot, but I just want you guys to kind of think outside the box, whereas a lot of people think, oh, jerkbait bite, all right, you got to throw, you know, the 110, just a standard bill. But really, in my use, I barely use this thing. I barely use baits with a standard size bill. Most cases, I'm using a bait with a larger bill, trying to get down a little deeper, and I think that's actually the key. I think a lot of people are limited to the fall because they're using baits that are in the 1 to 4 foot range, which, yes, fish are not usually aggressively feeding up in that range unless the water starts cooling down in the fall. So I think a lot of people don't look into these other options that they have, like the 110 plus 2. This thing gets down to 12 feet. Think about that. In the summer, this thing is extremely deadly. You put it on lighter line, you try to get this thing down super deep. I will pull this bait out when the fish are really lethargic and deep and I don't want to throw like a worm or something. You can bring this down right down to about 12 foot. You can just let it sit there, and then you can give it a little twitch and let it sit there, and then twitch and let it sit there. And those lazy fish that are in maybe, 20 or 15 foot of water, just sitting in some grass, they might rise up to check it out. And there you go, you got a fish. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to talk about this. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot. It's something I'm gaining a lot of confidence in, and I would like to hear your thoughts on it as well. I just find the suspending hard jerkbait to be probably one of the best bass fishing lures ever to be invented, just because the versatility of being able to pause it and not move it at all, and it stays right there. But then also you can turn around, you can rapid fire it, and it's super aggressive, like a crankbait or like a fluke. Just that like versatility, being able to put on a little bit heavier hooks or split rings and sink it down, or put on lighter hooks and let it go and let it be a floater. I just find them extremely versatile, and I just find myself every time that I go out tying one on because it seems to be just such a great way to get a bite, especially when you don't know where the fish are. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any other thoughts on this, please leave it in the comments. Please watch my other videos. I got some other cool stuff out there. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.